evening, everybody. If you could confirm, if you're watching me, whether you can see me and hear me okay, because we do sometimes have problems. My microphone is switched on, haven't forgotten that. Hi Sue, hello Kim, hi Emma, lovely to have you join. Hi Mandy, hi Carol, hi Maureen, all the way from Florida. She finally made it for one of the lives. It's so good to have you. Hello Gemma, all good, fantastic. So tonight is going to be a little bit different to what we normally do. Now I'm going to put my hands up and say I am not an artist. I am learning different techniques. I go to an art group, I thoroughly enjoy it, but I'm not a fully trained artist or anything like that. So the good thing with that is I am hoping to show you something from someone's point of view that hasn't been painting for probably more than a year or so. So if you're not sure, have a watch the tutorial and I will introduce all the different materials. If you're thinking, firstly, I don't want to buy more, it's going to be really expensive. If you've got a small budget to work on, the works normally have most of the watercolour materials that you will need at really good prices. You can buy them on Amazon as well. Or if you're not liking the watercolour, then I've got an alternative as well that we can look at. So, hi Carol, I'm not sure, I apologise in advance if I miss anybody. What's that tree thing behind you? Do you like it? That is actually a salt lamp, and it's got a tree of life, as you can see. And oh, sorry, I get distracted. I'm terrible, aren't I? Terrible. But it was a birthday gift from my partner and I absolutely love it. And apparently women of my age get the hot flushes. Apparently salt lamps are quite good for that, so I'm led to believe. Hello Barbara, thank you for joining. Kim, that is such a good point. Kim is saying you could always use kids' pencils and pens. Not sure if the pens would work, but I did this mini workshop in my art group last week and one of the ladies confirmed that it works with ordinary pencils. I've also tested it on acrylic, so you can use acrylics as well. So hello Francis, hello Janet, I think I've said hello Barbara, apologise if I've doubled up, or anyway, let's have a little look and see. Oh, good point. Janet says you have to be careful with salt lamps if you have pets. There you go. Sadly, I don't have any pets. I would love some pets, but I don't. So let's go on the overhead. Let's show you some of the cabochons that I've painted. So this, I think, will be wonderful for those of you that do bead embroidery, because you can make your own glass cabochons. And this is a little simple watercolour rose that I did, and I've started the bead embroidery. Now we are in a couple of weeks time going to actually look at how we're going to put these into bead embroidery. We've also got a YouTube tutorial on basic bead embroidery as well, but it doesn't end there. But I'm going to show you a couple of bits and pieces. Now that's my buzzy bee and lavender that I've put into bead embroidery. And all of the glue bales, the glue domes, they're all available in the thread to buy. Now you can also glue on one of these bales to use your cabochon and attach them to a bookmark, for example. Now you can also use them in what's called a bezel setting. Excuse me, rustling around in my bag. I'm trying to keep everything contained because I have a tendency to spread out. Where is it? There it is. Right, so this is the bezel. So with the bezel, what you do is you'd cut out your bead, you cut out your watercolour or pencil, and you would actually place that in there, which is how I've got this one. And this is the painting we're going to do tonight. So after you've done that, you would place the dome on the top to protect it. So that's tonight's project. I'll show you a few more and then I'll show you some at the end, because I know when I'm watching things I'm really eager to get stuck in. So that's what we'll do, is we'll look at some more samples at the end. That's one of the key rings. Now what we're going to need, you're going to need some water. You're going to need some watercolour paper if you're doing watercolour. Now the one I use is I bought mine from Amazon, watercolour book, A4 sheets, 300 GSM. I think that's what that stands for. One side is smooth, one side is textured. I don't know why, but I always like using the textured side. You're going to need some watercolours. You're going to need a very small number one paintbrush. That was really hard. And a scraggy old paintbrush, because we're also going to be sealing everything with Mod Podge. Now I bought this last week from the works for £6. It's normally £8 to £9 on Amazon. So as you can see, that's quite a big pot. It seals your watercolour painting. It attaches the glass dome and it attaches it to the base of the bezel. So it actually works as a glue and a sealer. So we're going to be working with that. You're going to need an ordinary HB pencil. I've got H3, but HB pencil. If you've got some fine liners, just add really nicely to it. And I like to have a water spray gun that I bought from Superdrug, which just sprays the watercolour palettes. Okay, right, let's have this by the side so you can see what we're making. So let's try not to waste the paper. Now I'm going to first of all draw around my cabochon. So decide what size cabochon you are going to work with. This is the size that goes into the bezel. Okay, so for this simple one, I'm going to just zone in a little bit more. Right. Apologise in advance if it's really if it's really rubbish. Hopefully. Oh, what type of Mod Podge? It is Gloss Luster Mod Podge. You can use the matte as well if you want to. So first of all, we're going to make the inner part here. So we're just going to make a little half moon circle. This could be a sunflower, or you could use other colours as well. It's up to you. I'm going to turn it that way because I find it easier to actually get my brain in sync for doing these petals. So we're going to do these front petals first. So the ones with the red we're going to do. So we're going to just do half of one there, and then we're going to do another one. So I'm just literally doing a little bit of curving and just bringing that down. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, well I should say we've got 4 and 2 halves. So the other half bit is there, and then 1, 2, 3. So that is just the ones at the front. So we're going to actually do some more petals that go at the back, so you won't be able to see all of the petals. So we've got a little bit poking up there and a little bit of it down there. Likewise. Okay, so nothing too complicated Whoops, where have you gone? There you are. So I'm going to get my fine liners out now. So again, these were from Amazon, but you could just buy one fine liner. A lot of people have them already. I like to use on this one, so they're Staedtler, I think that's how you pronounce it. Fine liner for writing, sketching and drawing. And the one I like to use is 0.1. So first of all, I am just going to go over those lines. I got a bit of the quivers tonight, I think. I'm just going over those pencil lines. Now, this is very much personal choice. I like doing this because I think it gives it more definition. And then we do the back ones. I apologise in advance to all of you talented artists that are probably cringing and oh dear, but you know, it's all about learning. So that's that bit done. Now I've got a rubber here somewhere. Now in our local post office they've got these rubbers that are called putty rubbers. They look like blue tack and they look pretty disgusting after a while, I'm not going to lie. But they're better than the others because they don't leave any smudge marks. So I've just rubbed off the pencil marks. Oh, bless you. Thank you, Susie. And it's lovely to have you watching. Right, so I think we'll go for the traditional sunflower colours. So here is my palette. I think what we'll do is we'll go out a little bit more. Now, when I first started watercolouring, it was some of the simple things that I had a bit of a problem with. And a lot of that was to do with the sort of depth of the watercolour paint. So I'm going to try and talk you through that so that I can help you overcome that part that I struggled with. So this little water thing, I like the palettes. You can buy them in tube form, you can buy them in the cheaper palette forms. So there's lots of different options. So I've got a dark brown. So I'm going to use, now the reason why we do this is because what happens is it soaks in to the watercolour palettes and it just dries itself out afterwards. Now I'm going to get my little brush. We'll start with the brown first of all in the middle. Now what I would suggest you have available is a scrap of watercolour card so that you can test out how deep your pigment is. So obviously the more water you apply, the less sort of dense it's going to be. Now some people do what's called wet on wet. I'm going to do wet on dry, which means that I'm not going to wet this part for now. I'm just going to actually wet my brush, but I have just thought of something else that I'm going to do. I'm going to put a little background on there first, which is so much easier to do to begin with. So let's just wet that as well. This is just going to be like a sky background. So have your dab of tissue paper as well, so if you've got too much water on there. So we are just going to do a little bit of background filling. So I'm just going to add that, then I'm going to dip my brush into water and just dilute that a little bit. The reason why I'm going to do that first is because when you add the colours into the petals, it'll start getting more difficult and it will start blending in. Just pop a little bit in between there as well. Okay, so what we'll do first of all, let's zoom in a little bit more again. Do feel free to ask any questions, and even if I don't see it initially, I will come back to you on it. Fortunately, you can see my colour there. So I am going to colour this in a brown. So I haven't got too much water on there, and my paper is dry. There's so many different techniques with watercolour. I'm going to come back and add to that after, and we are going to do a slightly brighter one at the front. So let's add that one there. So this is a orangey colour. I want that quite intense, because what I'm going to do is add a dot into each petal, or a little stroke into each one at the front, just the front petals. And then I'm going to actually glide that all the way along on each petal. If you want to add a little bit of tonal change, i.e. it's a little bit lighter at the top, add some water onto your brush, just dab that onto the tissue and just stroke the top of your petal. You see how that's just come off a bit? I think it's nice to have a little bit of colour. So let me just show you what I'm doing. So I'm lifting some of the colour out, and then just adding the colour I've lifted onto the kitchen roll. And it's just adding another little dimension to it. There we go. Could you use, Janet's asking, could you use alcohol in pens? I don't know, if I'm honest. I think you'd have to, it'd be one of those things that you'd have to test out really. Right, I'm going to use my yellow next. So again, I'm going to add a dot of yellow in each one, and then we're going to just glide that in. So you don't want to add too much. And again, if you want to remove some of the paint, so make it a little bit lighter at the top, just rub at the top with a slightly damp brush and then dab it onto your kitchen roll. Now the other thing I love to use in mine as well is inks. And again, you know, I'm not saying you need to buy all of this, because, you know, I appreciate that we're all crafters and there's only so much you can get. But if inks is something that you've got, then you can always just add a little bit into your picture. We'll have a look at that in a second. So there you go, there's a bit of texture. I want to actually make it slightly darker in the middle. So I've got a little bit of black. I'm glad you like it. It's not, you know, it's not anything complicated. So just to add a little bit of texture, it's going to add a little bit of black in there. And then I think what I'll do, let's just clean my brush, dab it off on there, and just build that in. We did a lovely little tutorial in our art group. One of the ladies actually ran the tutorial, and her tutorial was about lifting colours out of your pictures to create sort of empty spaces. And I know it sounds ridiculous, you add it in to take it away, but honestly it's really quite a clever little thing. So that just gives it more texture. Right, thank you for that. Different paper required for alcohol pens would be best, Susie thinks. Great tip. Hello Linda, lovely that you could join. I'm just going to grab some ink, some gold ink, bear with. Now, what's this? What's it called? Acrylic ink. You don't need much. I have got, you can buy these little things as well, because you can, these little pans. So that's my gold one. So I just put a few drops, or actually one drop's enough. And what you could do is just pop your brush in the gold, and you could maybe paint the tips in gold. Probably be quite difficult to see on camera, but let's just pop a few in there as well. Right, I wonder if you can see it. I think you can if I do that on it. So that's just a simple sunflower, and if we've got time we'll look at how to do the miniature earrings as well. So here's one I prepared earlier that's got the Mod Podge on, but to be honest I think what we'll do, we'll leave that one to dry. I don't know why I'm showing you that, because I actually need to show you how to do the Mod Podge. Right, so decisions are that we're going to turn this into a bezel setting. So what I'm going to do first of all is grab my old brush. You don't need it wet. And this is your Mod Podge. And just dip your brush in there. Now my top tip is, don't do loads of sweepy swirly motions, because what you're going to do is you're going to actually smudge all of that colour. So what you want to do is dab onto it. And why do you do this? You do this because you want to seal all the colours in before you put the dome on the top. So you can brush a little bit, but just don't go sort of back and forth too much on there. So quite simple, your Mod Podge on there. Now we can go to the Mod Podge. Can you see how it shines? Now I was going to show you how it works with a Stanley knife, but sadly my Stanley knife is as blunt as anything, so we're going to go for scissors. If you've got a Stanley knife, then I would actually cut with the cabochon on top. And if you find you've cut it out really badly, you're not happy with it, what you can always do is glue another piece on the back, another piece of card on the back. So just have a little bit more on there. Now the other thing I've seen these being turned into as well is maps. You know, people can print off maps if there's somewhere that's a significant place for someone. Right, step number 2 is a terribly cut out effort. Is we are now going to Mod Podge in here. So pop that in there. Let's just take some of that out, it's a bit thick. And then decide obviously which way round you want your piece. Pop that in. See, that's another reason why it's far better to actually have a Stanley knife, because you wouldn't have any of that overlap. Okay, so you've done that. You can either leave that for a bit to dry, which I would very much recommend you do, but because we're demonstrating, we go to next stage. So I'd leave that about 10 minutes and then paint on top of the glass dome. And then you're going to pop that on top of your watercolour piece. What I'd recommend you do is sort of press it if you can to try and eliminate any of the air bits and bubbles. So that is your completed piece, and you would then add your chain on it. Okay, now let's look at another option. So you want to do this to have a bookmark, okay, or perhaps you want to do that for a keyring. Now I've used that gold ink on the back because I thought that looked a lot nicer than actually just the white on there. So let's have a look at how do we just glue the glass on the top, and how do you turn it with the bail on top. Now I think we can go to the one that we painted. If I can find it, there it is. Right, let's see if I can make a better job of cutting this time. Definitely Stanley knives are going to be easier, and if you were doing Stanley knife, I would actually Stanley knife around the glass dome. That would be my recommendation. So guess what I'm going to be ordering from probably Amazon again, only because I'm really impatient, and when I decide I want to do a project, I probably want it the next day. Anybody else like that? Right, okie dokie. So we've got our glass dome, and what you can always do, if there's a few bits sticking out, you can always cut round that afterwards. So I'd say seal your picture again, like so. So going to wait 10 minutes for that. And have I painted that one? I think I've Mod Podged that one. So we can go to step 2 on this one, except I haven't trimmed it, so we could do it the other way around, couldn't we? So paint the glass dome. Let's just take some, I'm putting more on, not taking it off. You know, you don't want to oil slick it. Pop that on top. So this is the other way you can do it. And you can always wait for that to set before you cut round it. So that's the other way that you could do it. Oh, a scalpel, that's what I meant. Did I say a Stanley knife? Yeah, it's a scalpel. It's just my blade is absolutely shocking. Right, so whilst that's just drying, let's just have a look at the another one. So this is the larger one. This is one that I've done. So you can have that bigger one on there. And that's the one that I turned into that size. So really easy to do that. Now, whilst you have to give it a while, let's just, hopefully it won't move. So this is the other way, which is probably your better way of doing it. Says she. I'm not going to show you the back. I'm going to have a quick look. Oh, actually, it's not too bad. I think it's definitely better that way. Right, let's tidy some of these bits and pieces up. So, changing it from there to there. Now, a glue bail. Have I put them away? Darn, I have. Bear with. Glue bails, where are they? There we go. Oh, I don't want gold, I want silver. There we go. Sorry about that. How are we doing for time? We're doing okay. Right, so these are glue-on bails. They look like little spoons. And what you would do is you get your E6000 glue. Don't buy the plus. So the plus is like an oil slick. Right, let's just bear with. I'm having a bit of a tidy up. I'm getting in a mess. Right, so E6000. I'd normally as well either have a scrap bit of paper under there or a plastic bag of some kind just to protect. So this is your E6000, very well used, as you can see. So this glue bail, you're going to pop the E6000 onto the bail. On there, and then you need to decide where you want the pendant or cabochon glued. So I would always go front in so that you can see what you're doing. And then I think most of you are aware of how to attach jump rings. So when that's set, you would then attach a ring and you've got your bookmark. Likewise, you've got your key ring, that's with the glue bail. Just before we move on, let's just show you a few other samples. So that's a little butterfly that I did, a little flower and a bee, whoops, just a plain cabochon, and earrings. Now I think I've done some so I can actually show you how to do the little earrings. Let's do the earrings next before we do the cheats way. The other thing you could do is have it as a connector, so you could have that as a centerpiece for your necklace or bracelet. All okay so far. Let's just have a quick look at your comments. So I've already glued the cabochons on, but I'm going to show you how you glue on the scroll backs on the back. Right, all the glass domes are basically in the Facebook group, and I think I've put them online yesterday as well, but on my website. But if they're not online, they'll be on my website soon. Barbara is beading. She can't draw a straight line in front of her nose. Oh, I'm sure you could. E6000 is really good. Dried pictures, yeah, absolutely. If it's a proper Stanley knife, unscrew the more bits inside. No, I haven't got a proper Stanley knife. Chomps was bellowing a love song to his fair maiden, now off to make baby alligators. Maureen has some alligators in her garden, don't you, Maureen? Which is amazing. Could you please show the other one again? If you let me know which one, Susie, and I'll go back to it, no problem. The other one with the beaded border. Yes, of course. So I've got two. I've got that one. And that one. And for those who make cards, there are some very pretty patterns on cardstock. Be a great way to use scraps. Great tip. Right, okay. So we're going to make these into a pair of stud earrings. Again, these are all online as well. So you've got your little butterfly backs on those. Now, I better trim these down because they look pretty shocking at the moment. How are we doing? 37. But do let me know if there's anything else you can think of that we could use these for. I've got some piece of artwork to show you as well that I incorporated them in. Like you say, cards. And if there's anybody that wants me to show them any particular samples again, do let me know. You might want to actually seal the back of them as well, but for speed, no, we're not going for E6000. What am I doing? Right, for speed, we're just going to go straight for it. So these are what they call flat back earrings. And we're just going to pop glue on the flat back. So these turn them into studs. Now, if you're doing the drawing, just draw it in exactly the same way. Just pop your little circle. Draw a circle the size of the cabochon. Now, 24 hours set for E6000, but it's normally quite quick to the touch. So there you go. It won't be stuck yet, but you've got yourself a pair of earrings as well. Rings, bracelets would be great, all with small cabochons. And that's just made me think as well, if you're doing any bead embroidery and you want lots of small cabochons on it, wouldn't that be nice? You could make lots of matching ones as well. So let's put all of this to one side and let's look at a cheats way, shall we? Let's put those to one side to set. Now, because I didn't have time, I suddenly realised at like 22 tonight that I hadn't actually got anything printed. So because I wasn't sure, I couldn't easily find any non-copyright stuff, I've reduced the size of my own painting and printed it, and I am just going to make one of them from that. So this has just gone on to plain paper. Now let's just take my name off there because it doesn't sit right. So I'm going to go all the way around. And what I'm going to do first of all is just cut round that initially. Just so this is ordinary paper. I do hope this is going to work because I haven't done it for ages. I'm not going to lie. So everything crossed. You know I like to do everything at the spur of the moment, don't you? It's a good job I don't mind mistakes happening, do I? Okay. So I'm going to paint this. This is going to be a bigger one. So that's the other thing. If you do artwork, scan it on your computer and reduce the size of it so that you can pop it into one of your pieces. Right. Right. It's nowhere near where I've circled it, but having said that, luckily it doesn't really matter. So let's just, what you might want to do is you might want to make it a bit thicker at the back and actually glue some watercolour card on there as well. So I'm just trying to get all of those bits out of it. But isn't that clever? So what I would be inclined to do is, let's cut round that. I suppose you could cut out of magazines as well, couldn't you? The other thing you could do as well is if you're a stamper, you can always use your stamp or section of a stamp and watercolour it and use it that way. That's another option. So there we go. I'm just going to put another layer, leave it to dry, okay? I'm not going to, because I'm actually demonstrating to you, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't work out for me, but I just want to show you how it's all done. So I'm one-podging on the back, and I'm actually attaching that to some of my watercolour paper. I'm just rubbing on the glass because there's a bit more edge on there. Can I get these little covers and backs from? Yes, Mandy, they are in my group thread at Beads by Vachil. You just comment on the photograph how many you want. I think I've also put them online. I can't actually remember if I did it yesterday. So you could go that way, or you could email me what you'd actually like. But they're super cheap. They're all in the thread, in the group thread now. So that's the easiest way to do it. You know, they're between 20p and 50p for a glass dome. The bezel bases are £1.50. So, oh, sheet music. Do you know, as a musician, that would so appeal to me. And wouldn't that be a lovely gift if someone had a favourite piece of music and you managed to actually get some of the notation in there? I love that, and that would be a really nice, because I'm thinking my dad's a musician as well. And yes, absolutely. Oh, Susie, scriptural text, absolutely. All of these things are absolutely beautiful. Hello, Maxine. Do not worry. Yes, you can easily catch up afterwards. Just making sure I haven't missed anything. So there we go. That, I'm really chuffed with that. So that's a piece of my own artwork that I scanned on the computer, printed it off with paper, and I've made it into my own cabochon. Now we've still got a bit of time, so I'm going to do another one. There we go. Personally, I think I'd want to use that. Kim thought I was going to swear when I said oh sheet. It's a new swear word, isn't it? Oh sheet. Ah, dear. So that totally lost my train of thought there. Brilliant. Right, okay, so let's do a smaller one. This is my little wee chakra tree of life that I did, and it was actually much bigger than this, but again I've scanned it into the computer and I've reduced it in size. what size shall we use for this one? What have I got? What have I got to hand? This is one of the 25mm ones. There we go. I think we'll go for that one. So, oh, I'm glad you like it. Now, some of your comments have gone a bit further up the thread, so I will have a quick look in a second. Beautiful piece. Thank you. Let's see if I can get it a little bit more accurate this time. You can use mylar or thin plastic for the back if no bezel. Never heard of mylar before. That's really interesting. Maureen has a friend who's obsessed with pandas. Reducing a picture of a panda for a necklace and earrings would be a great gift. Well, you know, this is a wonderful, wonderful, cheap way of personalising things. And as you can see, you know, perhaps you might have a friend that does some artwork and she's happy for you to scan the pictures, or he, and doesn't mind you using their artwork in some of the pictures. That's another thing you could do. Magazines, just make sure that you're careful with regards to copyright. I wouldn't want to get any of you into trouble. Now, normally if you're buying, you know, like the stamps, the card stamps from people, normally they're happy for you to put them into pieces, just not to actually sell them in a kit. But if you're unsure, then just write to the person or the company that you bought it from. Now, I thought, because I've got some stamps as well, I've got a bee, a hedgehog, a peacock, I can't remember the rest now, and I wondered if I could use those, but they're a bit too big unless you want a monster piece. So I'm just adding an extra backing on that just to give it a bit more stability. So Susie says mylar is stencil sheet in various thicknesses. That is fascinating. What a great idea. Right, let's put that away while that's just quickly setting. Has anybody got any questions for me? Do you know, the other thing I might do as well is actually paint that in a coloured ink at the back. That's not very straight. I might have to redo that. Anyway, so I'm just going to cut round this. But I've got so many different size cabochons. I've got the mini ones that go for the earrings. I've got the flat back earrings that you glue on. I've got the earring hooks so that you glue the cabochon on, and you've got a hook so you've got a pair of dangle earrings. So I've got lots of different things in the thread. So there you go. And I would be inclined possibly just to seal the back with Mod Podge. Are there any papers that can't be used with Mod Podge? I don't know. That was just ordinary paper. So maybe tissue paper, but I would have thought that would be okay. Maybe the dye might come off. But I think it's like anything. It's just try it. You like that tree I painted? Do you know what? I was really happy with that. There's some things that just work, that are super quick, and there's other things that you paint and you think, nah, not feeling that at all. Right, I'm just going to clean my brush for the Mod Podge, and let's see if I can just show you before we finish. So we've only got 10 minutes left. An example of, okay, you've got a, let's say hypothetically, you've got the back of your thing, the back of your cabochon is plain, but you want to paint it so that it looks better. So let's have a look at that now. I've got some silver, there we go. Let's pop that into a little pot. Silver. This is silver ink. I'm going to use my Mod Podge paint for this because I don't want to ruin my brush. So you could just paint the back with a few layers of metallic ink. And then after you've done that, after you've done a couple of layers, I would then seal it with your Mod Podge. But I think that just looks a little bit better, don't you, than, you know, just your plain cream. I don't even know if you can see that on there. Let's just put another layer. So Kim is saying you can Mod Podge serviettes in decoupage. You could do that for a cabochon. Kim, that is a marvellous idea. So what Kim's saying is you could tear up pieces of serviette and actually put it into your cabochon. Fantastic idea. Do you see that now? Right, let's just have a look at your questions. Could you crochet gold wire behind and around the edge to hold instead of the cabochon? Oh, possibly. For me, it'd be getting it the right size, but never say never. You can also water it down too. Oh, okay. And I suppose because decoupage you use Mod Podge for as well. So would it help just to have a quick recap on showing you some of the things that I've made? So that's your glue on bail, ink on the back. That is an original piece of watercolour artwork that I've done that's just a keyring. So then you've got the bookmark. Do you know, I'm really struggling to find my words tonight. We've also got the little earrings. So you've got your stud earrings. Cute. There you go. So that's the piece that we demonstrated tonight. These are in bezel settings again. That is the, can you see that earring hook? So that's like a dangle. So if you look at the back, it's got the same flat back that we used. That is a little birdie. That's the piece that we did today. That's the one that I reduced in size. That was a piece of my own artwork. That's also the one I reduced in size. That was a piece of my own artwork as well. And these are some that I haven't yet popped into cabochons. And you've seen that a couple of times. So I'm going to go on the bigger screen now. And I'm just going to show you some of the alternative artwork. So if there's any artists among you there. So this was the original bee picture. So you know this cabochon that I reduced in size, that was what I scanned. So I scanned it before I put the bezel on. So can you see I've got a bezel? It's just really for something a little bit different in the artwork. Now, do you know the other thing that I thought about is if you're a wire worker, sometimes they do like dragon's eyes and they do a wire wrapping to make it look like an eye. You could actually download a picture of an eye and make your own cabochon. Maybe you could even make it for teddy bears, providing it wasn't given to children. It's just a thought. This is the other one I did. This is my tree of life. And I don't know if you can see, but in this tree there are birdies. Only it needs more birdies. And where's it gone? No, it's not that one. Anyway, the smaller one that I showed you, this one, that's meant to go in there. So if you look really closely, you can see I've got a bird in a cabochon there, there and there. Do you know the other thing that you could do with that as well is you could reduce the size of some of your family in picture form, and you could have pictures of your family in your tree, couldn't you? That'd be nice, wouldn't it? So that's just something alternative, because when I was demonstrated, I just wanted to show people what you can use this for. So I know it's been quite a different path to what we normally go down, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it's inspired you to actually think of trying something else out, whether or not it's printing your own pictures and trying the cabochons. But do make sure that you go in the group thread, have a look and reserve the cabochons you want. If you can't find them, send me a message and I'll send you the link, and I will make sure that over the next day or so they're all on the website as well. So I do hope you enjoyed. I'm going to love you and leave you because it's no. See, I told you I've got a problem with I got a problem with my words, and I haven't been drinking, honestly. Anyway, I'm going to love you. Oh, what is the matter with me tonight? I'm going to love you and leave you. Night all. Bye.